Alright, and welcome back to the forecast card. We started out pretty hot and cooled off real quick. Purdue, minus 7.5. Super sweat-free. They kind of dominated that whole game. Arkansas, first half plus 4. Could have taken the full game. They basically just shit on St. John's that entire game. End up winning the first half by like 2 points, I believe. Michigan versus Texas A&M, first half under. Honestly, I think this was a really unlucky bet. I don't know what was going on between these two teams, but the pace that they were playing at was insane. Not at all what they typically play at. I think in the first half, Michigan had I don't know, I think it was like 47 field goal attempts or something, when they typically average mid 30s. It was just a weird game. Even Texas A&M was running pretty fast, shooting only in 15 seconds into the shot clock between shots. So they ended up getting 20 more shots off than I expected. So total ended around 72 or something. Pretty shitty one. Texas Tech didn't end up betting much on this, but it ends up being relatively sweat-free. They kind of crushed those bums that are Drake. Seems like all the Cinderellas are basically dead at this point. Wisconsin first half, Creighton first half plus 5. I wouldn't say necessarily sweat-free, but they did win the first half. They almost ended up winning the game outright. They didn't cover the full game, so this is one of those first halves that actually ended up being beneficial to have. That was solid. Wisconsin first half. This basically stood no chance. This BYU team was just shooting lights out in the first half. Wisconsin almost came back, but yeah, this BYU team just went crazy. Not much to say. They almost won full game, but the first half, I think they were down at 11 points or something. Houston, the lock ends up being a push, and in my opinion, the most unlucky push I've ever had. Houston was dominating this game the entire time. I think it was a double-digit lead for basically 35 minutes, and then Gonzaga just goes on a 9-2 run in the final 5 minutes, where Houston for some reason can't score a single bucket. They don't get to the free throw line at all. Yeah, this was just a bullshit game, man. Gonzaga somehow shoots 50% against the best defense in college basketball, which is fine. You can have good games, but they shot 15 of 15 from the free throw line. They shot literally perfect from the charity stripe. Houston missed 5 free throws, but they dominated the boards. They, forced 4 more turnovers. This was a one-sided game the entire time, and it just that Gonzaga would just made their shots when they had to. Genuinely bullshit. I'm still really pissed off about this one. Yeah, right side just didn't end up getting cashed. UCLA first half. Not a true backdoor, but man, this one pissed me off. I think they were up 1 point with 3 minutes left, and then they gave up an 8-0 run in the last 3 minutes, not scoring a single bucket. End up losing the first half by 7. Really liked this spot too, especially since they got blown out for the rest of the game. So this was definitely the right side if you wanted to take UCLA. They just couldn't do it. Dayton, this was just a weird NIT game really early in the morning. It seemed like Dayton was just fall asleep in the first half. I don't really know what happened in that game, but they ended up losing this game by 15. Chattanooga shot 57% from the field. They just were the better team today. Bad play by me. And of course, George Mason versus Bradley under. I don't know what even happened in this game. Bradley scored 75 points. Shot 50% against a really good George Mason defense. I guess George Mason just didn't really give a shit about this game. But, just a shitty. I don't know what George Mason was doing, but that their defense was not it today. Anyway, that brings us to 4-5-1 on the day. Not nearly as bad as 2-5 that I've had in the last few days, but moving in the right direction. The Locks are still doing pretty good on the year. Big Dance 10-13 against the spread. Not great. 6-6 at NIT. We're relatively even right now in this tournament. Hopefully we can end on a high note. As always, I did mention that I was betting every single game. Obviously, you don't have to bet every game with me. You don't even have to bet any of my games. You can fade me because haven't necessarily been really good this tournament. But I'm betting every game, every NIT game, every CGI game, every March Madness game. I already locked in all of these bets, so I'll try to walk you through each of them. I'm not going to talk too much about the ones on the last page because I don't want this video to be 50 minutes, but let's go into each of the games that I like for tomorrow. Alright, heading on to game number 1, we have UConn versus Florida. Now, I obviously love Hurley as a coach. I think he's elite. But this Florida team is just insane. They're the second best, if not the best offense right now in college basketball. UConn's defense has been really shaky. It looks like they're an elite near basket defense, but they're really not. When you look at the stats, it's because when teams rush the basket, they foul. Like, they cannot actually defend the paint. They're 331st in free throws allowed. If your team tries to push them in the paint, they are way too weak. I think Florida is going to get to the line like 40 times this game, stopping the clock. They play at a really fast pace. I think they're going to force a ton of turnovers, get a bunch of free fast break points. They're going to hit a good chunk of threes. But yeah, I think they're going to score 85 points ish plus this game. Again, Hurley, an elite coach. I don't necessarily hate the Florida spread, but I think UConn has the ability with elite coaching to find ways to keep scoring on this Florida team. They're still an elite defensive team, but they have shown some weaknesses sometimes when teams make really big adjustments against them, and especially on the pick and roll. So we'll see how it goes. But I really like this line. I think it's a bit low. I think it's going to end up at like 82.5 by tip-off, so try to get on it soon. But yeah, I think Florida just completely dominates them from three in the paint, and they just get like 15 points from steals, 40, 30 points from free throws, and that just leaves them having to score 50 points from normal field goals. So love the spot. I think they forced this pace to be much faster than UConn wants it to be. Yeah, Florida team total over 80.5. All right, heading on to game number 2, we have Baylor versus Duke. I feel like maybe Duke's going to be a popular dog, or Baylor's going to be a popular dog today. Model-wise, I only had this model as a 12-point win, but man, now that I know that Cooper is playing, I love the spot. I think Duke is too big, too strong. Baylor obviously has some elite guards. They've got Edgecombe, who's probably going to be top 10 pick in the draft. They have Omier, who I think transferred from Florida. He's been pretty good. But I think this Duke team just has way too much depth on both sides of the ball. Again, they're on paper the best in offense efficiency, top 5 in defense efficiency. They're most people's favorite to win this whole tournament behind maybe Florida, and I'm not even sure if Auburn's even considered a favorite anymore after how they've kind of looked. But yeah, I think Duke and Florida are my two most popular. Duke offensively is going to have no problems. Baylor is a really weak defense, especially from 3 and in the paint. They're barely a top 200 paint defense, barely a top 200 3-point defense. They're going to foul a decent amount against a Duke team that's pretty solid from the line. Duke's going to dominate the offensive boards. The one thing Baylor does do well is they don't turn the ball over that much, but I don't think that's going to be necessarily a problem here for this Duke team, because I think they're going to find a lot of success offensively. Baylor, again, they shoot kind of everything pretty evenly, 35%, 30%, 38%. But again, Duke holds opponents to the 4th best field goal percentage, 37% on average. They're elite 3-point defense, elite mid-range, elite near basket, top 20 in all of them. They don't turn the ball over. They don't foul you. They're great on their own boards. Baylor has been playing really well to end off the year, don't get me wrong. But this is basically going to be a home game for Duke, like 20 miles away from their house. Baylor's going to have to travel pretty far. I think it's going to be 95% Duke people in this stadium. I think that's going to be a tough environment here for a Big 12 team coming in to play an ACC team. So, yeah, I just think this is too big of a get-up spot for a Baylor team that has, to some degree, had some hiccups when having to step up in competition. They're pretty elite when they're playing, top 26, top 100 teams, but the category of teams they look the worst against is top 25 teams. They're almost not even a top 50 team. If you look at the games that they most recently played against elite teams, played Arizona, they lost by 7. They played Houston, they lost by 11. They played Texas Tech, lost by 14. BYU lost by 4. Arizona lost by 11. TCU lost by 3. Tennessee lost by 15. Which is, once you're getting to Tennessee territory, you're getting a little bit closer to what you're going to expect from a Duke team. So, played UConn, they lost by 4. They played Gonzaga, they lost by 38. Like, they are yet to beat a top 10 team yet in college basketball. It seems like this is just too big of a step up for them. The best team they did beat was St. John's on a neutral court, but that was all the way back in November, and it was a really close game that went to multiple overtimes. So, yeah, I think Duke team, they barely had to try and bounce St. Mary's. They're going to be really rested. Baylor had to play an extremely grueling game against Mississippi State, a very physical game, and now they're going to have to travel to play this Duke team. I think it's a really tough spot for them. So I think Baylor may stick around for a little bit, but I think Duke ends up pulling away, winning this game by 15 to 16 points. All right, heading on to game number 3, Illinois versus Kentucky. Now, this is a really big total, but I'm expecting a lot of points this game. Kentucky, a team that consistently drops 90 points. Obviously, Illinois is considered to be a decent defensive team, but I think they're not that great defensively where it matters. Both these teams play at a lightning fast pace. Kentucky, 15th fastest. Illinois, 20th fastest. Kentucky, they're a team that likes to hurl up threes, shoot in the paint. They're going to find success. They're top 5 in paint offense, top 10 3-point offense. They're going to get a few points off steals as well, some free buckets points there in transition. The only thing Illinois defends really well is the mid-range shot that Kentucky barely takes. Again, both these teams are also pretty solid from the free throw line. If you look on the other side, this Illinois team, they do shoot a lot of threes, even though they're not that great at them. Kentucky, obviously an elite 3-point defense, but I think Illinois is going to adjust, and they're going to play in the paint. They're the second best in-paint offense, shooting 69% from the field in the paint against the Kentucky team that really struggles to defend anything outside of the 3-point. And both teams are pretty good on the offensive glass, so I'm not expecting too many extended possessions. I think it's going to be just like run up, one pass, shoot, pass, back and forth. And both these teams have enough talent here, where I think this game will be close enough, given how close the spread is, that you could get a ton of free throws at the end of the game. So I love the spot here at under 170 up for Kentucky versus Illinois. All right, that brings us to my favorite game of the day. It was going to be Maryland first half -4. I tried to look at an angle to bet this game. I think both of these teams are playing over their head. Colorado State obviously playing some of their best basketball then of the year. But if you told me that the spread was so small between these two teams like 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't believe you. I just don't think Colorado State has really had to play any extremely tough competition. They beat a Boise State team on neutral, a team that has basically struggled heavily outside of their home court. They played a Utah State team who shot terribly, shooting only 72 points, like a record low for them. They beat a Nevada team on neutral, a team due for a ton of regression. Again, they beat Boise again, San Jose State, Utah State. None of these teams are in the top 50. The only teams they had to play in the top 50 played VCU, they lost by 8. They played New Mexico, lost by 8. They played San Diego State, lost by 15. They played Mississippi, lost by 15. I think this is going to be a step up for them. Maryland has played to play much tougher teams. They've won against some of the very elite teams this year. Wins over Wisconsin, wins over Illinois twice. Really close loss to Michigan. Two other wins over Michigan. Close game against Purdue. Beat UCLA. Beat Villanova. Beat Ohio State. Close against Marquette. I think they are just the better team here. Furthermore, obviously this is going to be a big travel spot for both teams. Maryland's traveling much further, but Colorado State's still traveling over 1,000 miles, so I'm not going to necessarily give them a home edge. I think both teams are going to be pretty far away from home, so it's still going to be relatively split. Probably more Colorado State fans, but again, I don't know if these are necessarily massive fan bases on a neutral court. It might be a lot of neutral fans coming just to watch a really good game for basketball. In terms of power ratings, Maryland, second best team this year on neutral courts. They've been playing really, really well. Colorado State, not even a top 50 team. Their last 5, they've been playing really well. They've been best team in their conference, top 15 team. But Maryland, their last 5 has been the second best team in college basketball. They've been elite, and they really play elite at a high level. Colorado State, top 50 team against all teams, but when they play a top 50 team, they're not even a top 100, not even a top 125 team. I think this is a step up, a huge step up. I think this is more of a letdown spot for Colorado State than it is Maryland. I think Maryland has a lot more talent. And most of the Mountain West teams have been getting shit on. I think Colorado State has been getting a little bit lucky. They're due to start hitting a cold streak, and now they're going to be playing one of the best defenses in college basketball, top 5 in defensive efficiency, top 20 3-point defense, top 20 near basket defense. They don't turn the ball over. They're elite on their own boards. They don't foul you. And offensively, they're going to find a ton of success. They're second best 3-point team. They're going to get to the line a ton. They're going to dominate the offensive glass. They're going to force a ton of turnovers. They played at a much faster pace than you, and they have played a harder schedule. I just think Maryland's going to come out of this game hot. They're a really good first half team. Colorado State typically does start a little bit slower in the first half, historically. I think Maryland ends up winning, getting up to a really big lead early on, like they already did this tournament. And I think they can hold on to that lead and ends up winning this half by like 10 points. But yeah, this is probably my favorite spot of the game. All right, heading to game number 5. This is one that I bounced on back and forth on. I'm probably going to bet a lot less on it. Ole Miss versus Iowa State. Iowa State, obviously the more talented team. But again, Iowa State, they're still missing one of their best players. They still have, obviously, a lot of talent. But I think Ole Miss, they're in terms of skill, or not skill, but like veterancy. I don't know the word for it, but they're a team that is, built up of a bunch of older players. And again, Iowa State's still an elite team, especially defensively. But I think Ole Miss can force a ton of turnovers here. Iowa State's probably going to dominate the glass, but they have a bunch of elite players that can score. They just took down a much tougher opponent. I think North Carolina was a team that a lot of people expected to kind of roll this tournament. Not necessarily roll this tournament, but they had so much momentum coming into it, and they looked really good in their first round matchup to qualify. I think we're going to see a similar level of motivation for this Mississippi State team. Obviously, they looked really bad to end off the half. They almost let North Carolina back in that game. But that's just kind of what happens in these tournaments. Iowa State obviously going to have a bit of a home edge here. But again, I think in terms of quality of play, Ole Miss just had to play a much tougher first-round opponent in North Carolina. I think they're going to be kind of battle-tested coming to this. They just played, I'm not even kidding, if you look at their last 5 games, they played Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, Auburn, North Carolina. That's the last 5 games they played in March. Iowa State has played Lipscomb, Kansas State, Cincinnati, and then BYU twice. Obviously, BYU is an elite team, but Mississippi just had to go through the ringer to end off the year. I think they're going to be up for this quality of gameplay that they're going to expect. I think they can keep this game close. I think they have going to have some success. Obviously, it's hard to really look at the stats because season-long stats include a full Iowa State roster. I still think their second guy that came back is going to be on a minutes restriction still. Again, Iowa State, Ole Miss, their team that likes to shoot, a decent amount of threes. They'll find a little bit of success. It's probably not a ton. Iowa State's decent. They don't really shoot that many mid-range shots. They're going to find some success in the paint. They're going to force a ton of turnovers. They probably get to the line a little bit. Iowa State, on the other side, they're probably going to find success offensively. They always do. They're one of the better offenses, but something they do heavily rely on getting is forcing points off to steals, and this Ole Miss team takes care of the ball. Ole Miss coming into the SEC is a little bit more battle-tested, in my opinion, than the Big 12 this year, and they're an elite team when playing on a neutral court. Iowa State kind of relies heavily on their home court historically, so yeah, they might have 60-70% of the people there being at home, but it's still not going to be the same. I don't know. I think Ole Miss can show up big for this game. I might take one half, but I think I'm going to take the full game. I think this is a spot where Iowa State comes out hot, and then Ole Miss kind of fights back, kind of the reverse of the North Carolina game. So maybe Ole Miss and the points in this one. All right, heading on to game number 6, we have St. Mary's, another game I don't love. Again, this is going to be an insane game to watch. I cannot wait to watch this. You got the fastest team versus the slowest team. This is going to be fun to watch, but typically when I do see these kind of mismatches, I'm always going to lean on the defense. I think St. Mary's, despite not having nearly as much talent and coming out of a much weaker conference in the West Coast compared to the SEC, I think everyone's going to be on Alabama. And maybe it's going to be the right side. There's always a chance here that Alabama wins this game by 25. But if St. Mary's can slow this game up, I think Alabama is going to be really uncomfortable. Offensively, St. Mary's might find a little bit of success. Probably not a ton. Alabama's still a pretty solid defense. But, I think this is going to be a really grueling game. And I think if St. Mary's can make them uncomfortable, it'll be interesting. Again, I have no idea what to expect. I'm just sprinkling this game, like 1/10 of a unit. I don't love the spot for either team, but I think it's going to be fun to watch. And I think St. Mary's is a little bit better in front of the neutral crowd. So, give me St. Mary's plus 5.5. But I'm not in love with it. All right, then we have New Mexico at Michigan State. I'm going to take the under 149.5 here. I think both these teams are due for a ton of regression. Offensively, they're not nearly as good as they are defensively. Michigan State top 10 defense, New Mexico top 10 defense. Michigan State pretty solid offense, but the fact that they don't really shoot threes, and New Mexico doesn't foul too much makes me kind of confident that most of the points that Michigan State does score here is going to be just like 2-point shots. And New Mexico's really good on the boards, so I think if Michigan State, a team that's not very efficient, is going to miss shots, I really like them to have a lot of shitty possessions. On the other side, New Mexico, they do play really fast. It's the 10th fastest team in college basketball, but I do think since Michigan State is the better team here, they're going to dictate the pace. I think New Mexico's going to have to forcibly play this game slower. They're going to find a little bit of troubles getting free points off of in transition. And this is a Michigan State team that is an elite defensive team. But yeah, I think on paper though, I'd probably lead New Mexico if I had to bet a side. But I think this ends up being a low scoring total against two offenses that typically kind of are very inefficient. Like New Mexico sucks. Like they're not even top 100 in anything, and they suck at shooting free throws. So yeah, I think this will be a fun game to watch. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring one, under 149.5. And lastly, Oregon. Yeah, I kind of bounced back and forth on this one. I think Oregon's just a better coached team. I think Arizona, obviously a good team. This is basically going to be a home game for Oregon. It's really going to be really close to their hometown. Like Arizona is an elite defense, don't get me wrong, but Oregon has looked really good to end off the year. I think they have a lot of talent. They're coming into this, in a much, I think, better form than Arizona, who kind of looked a little bit shaky. I don't know. I guess we're going to see. I think Arizona is the better team, but I think Oregon kind of peaked at the right time. They're fully healthy now. I think they can keep this game really close. I think it's going to come right down to the wire. I think both teams are elite defensively. Obviously, Arizona's a really good, slightly better offense, but I think Oregon shows up here. I think their coaching is better, and they're going to make the necessary adjustments to find some success offensively. So, Oregon plus 4.5, sprinkle the money line. All right, I'm kind of going to speed run each of these games. I bet all of these, some half unit, some quarter unit, none full unit, because the tournaments are kind of bogus. But Oklahoma State, I think this is a bit too many points. This is obviously a spot where SMU could win by 25, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I think Oklahoma State here is going to get to the free throw line a lot. They're going to find some success from three, and they're going to force a lot of turnovers. SMU, obviously an elite offense, could easily score by a bajillion and a half, but I think they're going to be missing one of their star players, and because of that, I think Oklahoma State can hang around a little bit coming out of a pretty tough conference. I think they keep it up here, and again, they have a really fast pace, which typically disrupts these elite teams like SMU. So I think Oklahoma State can stick around. North Texas, both these teams, elite defense, not really good offense. I don't love the spot only because it's actually a home game for North Texas. Arkansas State plays great on the road. North Texas plays kind of shitty at home, but I think the Americans will be better than the Sun Belt this year. It's kind of crazy to say, but both teams elite defenses. I'm just going to take the team that shoots the free throw better, which is going to be North Texas. I think both these teams are going to get to the line a ton, and I think North Texas' slow pace is going to be annoying for this Arkansas State team. San Francisco, probably one of my favorite games from these tournaments. They're just an elite home team. Loyola Chicago hasn't really had to step up in competition. I think San Francisco, on paper, is just the better team here. In general, not really much to say. I think they just finished off the year at a much higher note, and Loyola hasn't really had to play too many tough teams here. I think it's going to be a really awkward spot and a massive travel spot for Loyola Chicago across the entire country. I think they're going to be sleepy against San Fran that loves to play at home. So I think San Francisco runs away with this game at the end. I think it's close for a bit, and then the talent of SF kind of pulls away. UC Irvine, just kind of a wagon as a favorite. They kind of slowed down a bit at the end of the year, but I think this is just an awkward spot for Jacksonville State. Both teams are going to find success, but I think Jacksonville State's threes aren't going to fall as much as they typically do, and that's basically the only spot they're going to find any success this game. And again, UC Irvine, one of the best free throw shooting teams in college basketball. I think that ends up being the difference here in the end. I think it's going to be like a 4-point game, and then UC Irvine ends up winning this game by 8 or 9 from free throws. Kent State at Stanford under 142. I like this spot. Two really slow teams, both teams that are better defensively than offensively. Kent, an elite defense, top 100 everywhere, 3-point mid-range near basket. Stanford probably will get to the free throw line a lot, which is my only concern. But again, Kent State's offense is dog shit, and they're going to have a lot of problems scoring this game. So I think this is going to be a grueling game. 30-second shot clock, and then a miss. I'm just hoping that Kent doesn't foul too much, but we'll see what happens in that game. UAB at Santa Clara over 165.5. This is going to be two teams. This tournament has kind of shown that defense doesn't matter. I think this is going to be a boat race between two of the fastest teams in college basketball. If you look at this matchup, sorry, I can't find it. UAB, where are you? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I have this modeled at 166, basically around this total, but again, two top 100 speed teams, and both of them don't defend well, where the other team is successful offensively. Santa Clara is going to get hot from three. UAB is going to have a lot of success in near basket, and then finding success on the offensive boards. I think this is going to be a game where both teams have no problem scoring, just running back and forth, trading possessions. Incarnate Word plus 1.5. I just hate Manhattan. I fucking hate that school. And Incarnate Word here, I think they have a more veteran squad. Fuck Manhattan. That's all I'm gonna say. I hate Manhattan. Elon minus 6.5. Don't love the spot. Elon turns the ball over a metric shit ton, but again, they're gonna be, they're just being a better team. Played on the road. I think they're gonna dominate the boards, get a ton of free throws, and they're really good on defense where it matters, in the paint and on the 3-point shot. That's basically all Army does. If they can minimize their turnovers, they probably win this game by 20. Queens first half. I think the teams are literally equal. There's really no significant edge I can give to either team. However, if you look at the data, Queens always starts out games hot. They're one of the better first half teams in their conference. North Arizona always starts out slow. I think Queens, if they're going to win this game, they're going to win it first half. North Arizona is a team that kind of locks in at the end. So I think Queens first half money line. And to finish off my slate, Illinois team total over 72.5. I think they're way too good of an offense in this spot. I don't really trust them defensively, but they've played a much harder schedule. Presbyterian is not a good defensive team at all. Illinois State is top 80 in field goal percentage, top 60 3-point team, top 20 mid-range team, top 50 near basket team. Obviously, this is going to be a pretty slower paced game, but I think I don't know. I just think Illinois State is going to be able to score in every single possession. They played a much harder schedule, and I also think that Presbyterian is just a dog shit team. That's all. But yeah, I think Illinois State gets to like 76, 77 points. But yeah, that's every game that I bet today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 games. Jesus Christ. Hopefully not a bloodbath tomorrow. You can always check my spreadsheet if you want to see my confidence in each plays. The 2 stars are, I guess, I have a slight edge. 3 stars are my favorite. 1 stars are games that I'm betting, but most of the time they're like a total or like something I'm not confident about, either that being injury or it's just some really unique game that I just would rather watch than bet on. So, that's everything for today. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully we end up green. It's been a bit of a shitty tournament to end off, even though I started quite hot at the beginning. But at least the locks have been doing fine. 3-1-1's okay. I should be 4-1. I'm still pissed off about that Houston game. Fucking 15 for 15 from free throw, man. Fuck me. Anyways, I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Cheers.